have Dr. Camir Ricketts with us, and he's gonna be sharing.
I'm here.
How you
I'm here.
feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here, excited to kick this off. And, you know, we've been planning this for a while now, so I'm looking forward to, you know, a lot of the interviews to come. I think, you know, it'll be definitely be a treat. I'm merely the appetizer for the, you know, the real heavy hitters coming up this season on Mentorship Mondays. So very happy
I love
and
it.
I'm blessed to be here.
I love it. And so let's just get right into it. Now, there's so many questions I thought about asking you, as well as there were questions that came in that persons wanted to know. And if I ask every single question, we'd be here for the whole entire night. And so I kind of curtail some of the questions just to get a full scope of everything. And so my first question is, was this always the path? Was microbiology always the path for you?
No. I think initially I wanted to be an architect. I think that was one of the first things I remember wanting to be, because my dad, you know, growing up, my dad was in construction. So in my mind, me being an architect, I would get to work with my dad. It just kind of made sense, and it's kind of what I was exposed to initially, right? And we'll get into this, you know, later on. But that's kind of how we frame things. You know, things that are in our environment, things that we're exposed to. We kind of, you know, use that to project and figure out what we want to do. So at that time, I just, you know, thought it'd be cool to work with my dad, and architecture was the thing. But eventually in high school, I got into this like summer program where every summer we went to UWI, and we got exposed to like robotics and microbiology and biotechnology and all these different fields in science. And I was like, maybe this is kind of where I want to be. It was, you know, seemed very interesting. There's so many problems to you know, really keep you engaged and challenged. And that's something that I always looked for. So that's kind of how I went from architecture into the sciences, really. But it wasn't always the case. And then even something like microbiology what I did in undergrad, but then even after that I changed paths slightly, which you could get into. So, you know, it's always the goal and the vision is always changing, is always evolving.
The goal and the vision is always changing, it's always evolving, and so you don't necessarily have to, you know, continue where you started. And that's a big shift, like from wanting to do architecture to then biology, microbiology, and so what you are doing right now, that is so profound. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of what you're doing right now, I know that you just recently, well, probably not recently, but you were just awarded your doctorate. And that's a big deal because you're still under 30. And so that's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations. My question is though, I know it wasn't an easy journey. What were two most difficult instances to achieving the doctorate?
Let me see. I think during my doctorate, I think one of the you know, the difficult instances, one of the most challenging times was one of those times. So going into my PhD, I thought I really was clear on where I wanted to, you know, which labs I wanted to work in, and what I wanted to do. And when I got there, I was so tunnel vision, because normally in your PhD you're doing rotations to pick a lab that you're going to do your thesis work in. So you do 3 months in one lab, you do 3 months in another lab, and so on. So I thought I knew exactly which lab I want to work in. It didn't matter. These rotations didn't matter, right? I was just going to do the ones until I get to the one I really, you know, I'm going to work in. And so I found myself not really giving the kind of effort and focus to the other ones that I should have, because I was so hell-bent on working in that lab. And when that time came, it really just turned out to not be the experience I thought it would be. And that kind of, you know, shook me, because at that point I'm like, well, I don't tell everybody that this is the lab I'm going to work in. I don't tell all my peers that this is where I'm going to be. And the more I was, you know, working in it and working in the lab, it just seemed to not be a good fit. And that was a tough time, because you're so committed. You always thought that that's what was going to be the kind of work you're going to do. So when you hit that roadblock now, you have to kind of have a come to Jesus moment where you have to be really honest with yourself, and it's like, okay, if I if I defy all the red flags, so to speak, and still, push the issue, it's going to do me a disservice in the long run. So I had to take a step back, accept that, okay, this isn't going to work for me, and try and then find another lab to work in, right? Which was not something I had banked on. And that process, I had to ask my program to allow me to do a fourth rotation and all this other stuff I really didn't want to do. So I almost felt like I was now behind schedule, right? And for a lot of people, you start getting into it, it's already you're messing up. Like you just start your PhD and already you're making silly mistakes or just having some missteps, right? So that was one thing. And then for my PhD, I went straight from my undergrad to my doctorate. So I skipped my master's, right? And yeah, so I'll talk more about that. But in doing that, you kind of I wasn't fully prepared for kind of doctorate level, the change of pace. You no longer have these monthly exams that keep reminding that, hey, you're doing a good job. The how you're assessed changes. And that was something that was very difficult for me to get used to, because I was so used to in university, these monthly exams that just is a quick thumbs up. They're like, hey, you're doing well, or you're on track. And then now I'm in the people in my cohort, they are students from MIT, and they did undergrads in physics or pure math, and it seemed this whole imposter syndrome kind of sets in almost inevitably, where you're now maybe I shouldn't have done that, maybe I should have went to do the masters, because clearly everybody is so much ahead of me, and that kind of stuff. So that was also something that, like, through a lot of work, I had to get through. So and of course the work itself is difficult, like the actual training and the research and so on. But you learn in a PhD a lot of times it's those other things. So learning how to deal with failure, learning how to certain soft skills, how to present, how to communicate your research. All those other things are the things that really you have to work on and develop during a doctorate. And it's not so much about the actual content that you're doing sometimes, that it's surprising. You think that, okay, the work you're doing will be the most difficult thing, so because all these other things around it, that life just happens. Life just happens while you're in graduate school, and learning how to manage that, I think, is one of the big growing opportunities when you're in a program like that.
What I'm getting from you is that, yes, the workload was difficult. That transition, and we're gonna talk about that. I'm writing that down. That transition where you just kind of went from undergraduate and boom into the whole doctorate level. That's like an eye opener for you, because the work is completely different. But you touched on something that I don't know, it's like you're reading my mind. That's literally the next point that I wanted to talk to you about. And you just brought it up, is that imposter syndrome. Because being a young person that is successful, and that's what I'm telling you, and you're going to hold on to it. Being a young person that is successful, imposter syndrome comes up so often. And I saw this question that somebody really wanted to ask. And I thought this right now is a very fitting moment to bring it up. And you brought it up even before me. You already answered, was there any imposter syndrome? How did you deal with that imposter syndrome? Because that can hold you back from actually accomplishing, the end goal.
Yeah, I think is a very real thing. And I think one of the first things was just learning that it's called imposter syndrome, right? There was quite a lot, very late in my journey is when I found out that it has a name, because it's something that I've felt, since, in primary school, high school, joining different programs, having teachers suggest that you apply for certain things. It always kind of pop up immediately, that self-doubt and so on. So for me, learning that it has a name, understanding what it is, I think was one of the, it was half the battle. And during my time, especially in graduate school, understanding that it is something that something that I'm not the only one experiencing, I think was also very important. And being honest, engaging in honest and open conversations around it. So, with the colleagues, the same colleagues and peers in my year, you get close. You become friends with people in a year, and you start talking with them. As you feel more comfortable to speak about these things, you realize the same people that you're comparing yourself to, like, I don't know this, like, Philip, and I don't know about so and so, like Rebecca and whatever it is. You're speaking to them, and then you're learning that they feel the same kind of things about you. They're saying in their minds how Camir knows more about XYZ than they do. You're like, so all of us just here looking at each other and comparing, and that kind of kind of demystifies it a little bit. You're like, okay, this is something that's just kind of in our heads. So I think having those kind of open conversations around it, and then also getting to a point where, because I remember people always ask it, how do you surpass imposter syndrome? How do you get rid of it, or master it, or whatever it is? And I've kind of, for me, I've gotten to a place where it's not something that I think I'm going to reach a point where I no longer experience it. Because I think imposter syndrome kind of sets in every time we're doing something new and uncomfortable and something we don't know about. And for me, that's kind of the stuff I always want to do. I always want to do new things, challenging things I haven't done before. So if I live a life and that's kind of what I pursue every year with every goal. So I'm going to always be in those kind of situations where it's a new environment, new people, maybe people who have been there before I have been there. So it's something that you just kind of have to always kind of be aware of, accept it for what it is, and learn, through open discourse, through recognizing when you're falling into that cycle of, self-doubt, to help, build, learn what works for you to kind of knock yourself out of that moment. Maybe it's a friend of yours who, is there for like hype you up and say, well, you're boy, you're the smartest person I know, or you're the this, you're the that. I think, yeah, exactly. I think it's something that is useful. But if I'm never experiencing imposter syndrome because I'm always doing something that I know how to do and I've been doing it for years, then I'm not really growing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I view it. And it's an opportunity if you're in a space where people seem to know more about something than you, then you can learn. Like even at work, at NVIDIA, at work, I feel like I'm around people who know, I just get to work with like some of the smartest people I've ever met. And for me, it's an opportunity to learn, right? Like I should be able to leave these teams, better than I came because I'm learning and soaking up as much as possible. So it's not bad if people around you, are more experienced. Or, nobody's there whispering behind your back and say, look how come here and know about X, Y, and Z and so on. Be open. Say, I've never done this before. Can you teach me? So that's kind of how I approach this whole imposter syndrome. But it's something, actively working on. Yeah. It's not something I've mastered.
I don't think you ever really get over it. I'll be open and say that the first time I learned about it was late last year, and I learned about it from my therapist. So she was like, well, you don't have an issue. You just have imposter syndrome. So, and I think everybody just kind of, everybody kind of just has it at some point when there's something new going on. And I love what you say. You're always going to be doing something new. You're always going to be learning something new. And so you're always going to have to learn how to combat that. It's never going to actually go away.
Yeah. If you never have that kind of feeling, I guess you have the highest levels of confidence in yourself at all times, and kudos to you. But for most people I know, it's something that we all go through at some point.
So I want to touch on that. How did you leap from undergraduate to doctorate? Like coach me through that. Like I need to know what's the secrets.
Well, you have to know the right people, and no. So I think at least here in the US, because I just for some quick backstory, went to high school in Jamaica, did sixth form in Jamaica, then came to the University of Georgia for my bachelor's in microbiology. And then while I was there, because at the time I really entered university, I was very interested in the sciences, really into microbiology, but I was also very interested in computer science as well. And at the time, those were very different fields to me. Like they couldn't be further apart, right? So my thinking was I'll keep studying both of them until someone forces me to choose, right? So when I was in my first year, I kind of just randomly was speaking with a professor and just kind of explained this dilemma, right? And I think a lot of students in our work at Minds of Jamaica, you learn this. Like a lot of students experience that where, you feel like you like different fields, different industries, and you can't really pick. So I was speaking to a professor about that, and he was like, why is that a dilemma? Like, that sounds like bioinformatics to me. That sounds like computational biology. And I'm like, I had never heard of this field in my life. So that one conversation kind of opened my eyes now to this new world of something that exists that combines my two interests. So I got, really got excited, went home, researched it, called my mom, Googling how much they make, and all the standard things that we all do when we're thinking about careers, and really thought that it would be a good move for me. But I wanted to really get my hands, in it, learn it, kind of get exposed to it. So I was lucky enough to find a microbiology lab on campus that their research involved the bioinformatics and involved some computational biology. So I got into undergraduate research, and during my years in undergrad, every summer I would do research, and you quickly learn that if you display that interest in research and a commitment to it, when you're leaving undergrad, you can then apply directly to PhD programs and show them your research record, your research experience, and kind of use that to say, I don't need to go do a master's because I know I want to do research and I'm ready to commit to research for the 5 years of a PhD. Because a lot of times these programs, what they're looking for when they look for master's students, they're looking for people who are kind of mature enough to know that this field is what they want, this kind of work is what they want to do. Because a PhD is not an easy undertaking. So you need a certain level of commitment to really push through the 5 years. So people coming in from a master's, they know that someone, you're someone who finished undergrad, you went to do the second degree, in this field or in a related field, and you're committed. So if you can show that level of commitment from, as an undergraduate student, then you can essentially argue that I don't need to go do a master's because here I am using my summers to do research in this field. I know this is what I want to do. Let me come and do this 5-year PhD and not waste my time, but not spend another 2 years doing a master's. So that's kind of how it went, really. So a lot more and more students, especially in the science, in the life sciences, are doing that kind of transition. If you know that you want to do a PhD.
I think everybody online, mine just went just like mine. I'm like, wait, hold up, let me take notes.
Yeah.
Wait, what is he saying?
And the CVs are kind too, right? Because master's programs not cheap.
I think we can skip that. So anybody here that's in the sciences, that's a big nugget for you right now, because you just learned that if you start doing your research from early, you know that you're passionate about this. You start doing your research from early. You give your summers like Camir has done to this research because you're so passionate about it. You can just bypass the masters, bypass that 2-3 years, go right into what you really want to do. Everybody's like mind blowing.
Yeah. and it's not something weird because I still enjoyed my summer. So a lot of times people hear this and it's like, well, I don't have the kind of drive to just completely give up my summers and always be working and so on, because it's important to take time off. So it's not that, as soon as schools, the year end to the year, the new university year start, I was in the lab research. I took like a month off. Like the summer is 2 months, 3 months or so. So, you do research for a month, use the other month to enjoy yourself, enjoy some vacation, that kind of stuff like that. So it's not that I'm arguing that you need to be every ounce of free time you have, find a lab and do research and so on. But be smart and maximize.
It's share a big nugget. Everybody in the chat is lighting up. Everybody in the chat is about to come off after we finish. Don't come off right now, come off after we finish and start researching. How is it that they can do this? I mean, I know I'm gonna look into it. I'm not in the sciences, but I'm like, oh, probably there's a little. And I see a question, and I just want to take that question before I move into my questions, because I want that interaction from the chat. Is there somebody's asking, are you aware of any science summer camps here in Jamaica?
Science summer camps at the university level. So I'm personally aware, and that's something that I want to kind of learn more about and find out about. I think one thing that students can do, and I've kind of helped students do this, is reach out to professors at UTech. One of the big issues is that, at least in the sciences, I know a lot of the research labs are at the main campus in Kingston. So if you're a student who don't live in Kingston, if you're on the other side of the island, finding lodging in Kingston to spend the summer doing research, there's a lot of logistical, challenges to pull it off. But you can reach out to professors, reach out to people who might know professors, someone like me, a mentor that you find who might know professor, and ask them directly, hey, are you accepting any students to do research, research assistants for the summer and so on. So don't feel like a set summer camp is the only opportunity for you to do this kind of work. And you'd be surprised, send multiple emails. If you send 10 professors an email, maybe get one back, but that's all you need, right? So I think, somebody in the chat talking about STEM Builders Learning Hub. So there might be a few programs out there that we should even look into and learn more about. But see CERNs at UE as a summer internship. So yeah, so people on the ground know more than even I do about some opportunities that might be there in Jamaica. So
and I
think
love
that's
that,
something that is awesome.
I love that we are sharing. Thank you so much for sharing and giving those nuggets in the chat. We appreciate it, and you just helped somebody. And that's why we love these engagements, where we come together every second Monday of every month to do this right here. And so I love it.
Yes, I've heard of Dream Jamaica too.
Jamaica,
as well.
yeah.
So
that question has been answered. Take down your notes, write them down, go Google these places and try and figure out how you can get involved for sure. So I think this is where we get into it. So I've been talking about the journey, and I really want to know, what exactly do you do, Camir? Because a girl like me, and I'm sure several persons in the chat are like, that sounds cool, but what is it? What's your day-to-day like? And what is who is a bioinformatics scientist? Like, what you do?
Yeah. So I am a bioinformatics scientist in artificial intelligence at NVIDIA. It's a long title.
Is that big deal?
Really, what is a big deal? So the field in general, you can imagine trying to use computer science to solve biological problems and answer biological questions. And the reason for that is that we're all going through this big data boom. So every industry, every industry has been digitized, right? And biology and healthcare is no different, right? There are a lot of programs and forums and conferences around digital health and so on. We've kind of unlocked the ability to sequence the human genome so that we can learn, exactly, what genes are present in the human genome, and not just humans, right? All sorts and varieties of organisms. But that causes us to produce a lot of data, right? The human genome is about 3 billion nucleotides long. So to make sense of it, it's kind of hard for one person like sit down and try to reach with the human genome and be like, okay, this is where this gene is, and so on. So we have to use a computer. And we have to use computational algorithms to go in and say, okay, I am comparing the genome of somebody who might have a particular disease to somebody who is healthy, and this is where their genome is different. Maybe that difference is what's causing the disease, right? And then use, a lot of computational models and so on to really get the answer. Somebody said like ChatGPT. So yeah, ChatGPT is a large language model, and we use some of that in biology as well. But yeah, so you're basically using these advanced like computational approaches to help us answer a lot of like cool problems, or even design new drugs, right? So you can imagine, it can take say 10 years, for example, for a particular successful drug to go through research and development, right? And they're in the lab experimenting, they're taking different molecules and testing it on different targets to see if it binds or not. What if I could use information that I know about every drug that is successful, and then ask the computer, hey, instead of me blindly going into a lab and just trying different molecules on this target of interest, for a particular disease, I ask the computer, this AI model now that has an idea of every successful drug that we've ever used, design a drug that works for this target. And the AI model might be like, okay, out of the 100 million possible drugs that are molecules we could use, I think this 1,000 is probably most likely to be effective against that drug. Now you just saved me a lot of time in the lab, right? So that's kind of where the value of computation and artificial intelligence kind of come into play in healthcare. And there's so many arenas. I'm just picking a few, like even in reading, say, MRI images, in radiology and those kind of fields, designing algorithms and AI models to be able to quickly look at the MRI image or so to like identify what kind of cancer or where a particular bone is broken, or I'll look at X-rays. Like there's so many ways that we can use this technology now to make physicians' lives faster, easier, more accurate, and so that's kind of work we do. At NVIDIA, I focus a lot on drug discovery and cancer genomics kind of projects. But there are a lot of people in academia, in industry, doing a lot of cool things in the space, right? So I know it sounds like a lot, and it feels kind of far out there, and so on. But
it does sound
it's
cool.
cool.
It sounds really, really cool. I don't think growing up as a little girl, you would ever imagine that that's something that you can do. And so I love that you're able to share with us that these type of careers exist, and we don't need to limit our scope, because we can really just become anything that we can. And I see Shay saying it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
It sounds
yeah.
really fun. I'm sitting down there like, oh my God, I didn't know programming could be used for such exciting things.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're somebody who's into programming, and there are people in the field who, they might not do a ton of like hardcore algorithmic programming, but they might do like a lot of like statistical analysis. So there's room along the spectrum for people to come in and be involved in the space in many different ways, right? As somebody point out targeted therapy and stuff like that. So this whole idea of like personalized medicine and being able to like really tailor drugs to the individual, right, is kind of like that big goal that we're all working towards. Because a lot of these tools get to that where I can design something that is for the individual rather than whichever subgroup that you fit in. A lot of people, I've heard people say, oh, when I have a headache, Tylenol doesn't work for me, Advil works for me, and somebody else might say Advil will work for me, but Tylenol don't work for me. So imagine being able to like always know which one works for you and which one doesn't off rip, right? That's kind of like the goal that we're working towards.
I like where the world is going right now. And so guys online, this is a field that you're interested in. Start doing research, and feel free to go on the Minds of platform and reach out to Camir, because he does answer questions about this. Yeah.
And we have another scientist on the platform as well, who is in bioinformatics. So you can definitely learn more from either one of us and ask us questions.
The whole aspect of your job sounds very exciting to me, but I want to know what's the most fulfilling part of it for you.
Most fulfilling part of it for me, I think just knowing that I think every day we get to work on stuff that don't exist, which is really cool, and thinking that the kind of work that we're doing incrementally is going to get us to that place where healthcare is serving more people, is faster, is more accessible, is kind of what I'm striving for. And then also knowing that I'm somebody who is taking up space in these arenas. Like there are not a lot of Black people, a lot of Jamaicans in these fields, right? In STEM in general, in a lot of other fields outside of STEM, and especially in a niche one like computational biology. So being able to be a role model, or someone can see and be like, well, if he can do it, maybe I can too, and participating and engaging with students and stuff like that. So I like a lot of those other things are outside of like the core function of my job as well. And even at work, I try to always engage with students, always encourage them with NVIDIA has an internship program, so I try to encourage students to apply to participate, especially students, fellow Caribbean students, Black students in general, minority students, always pushing them to really think that this is a place you can go, because it's kind of tough sometimes when you don't see anybody that look like you doing certain jobs, and you're like, I'm not even going to bother, especially in the US. So that's something I really enjoy.
Like you saw my notes before we came on, because my next question is, I know that you're a scientist, but your passion is where students are. And so you founded the Minds of Initiative, and I just wanted to know why. What was your reason? What sparked this?
Why? Yeah. It really came down to, I came to Jamaica in 2018, and I did a lecture at UWI, and I also spoke to some sixth formers at my alma mater, Herbert Marsh Technical High School. And I was talking with students, and it just really was clear that a lot of them, you know, like me at the time, felt kind of confused about what they want to do, what they want to study. Felt like they didn't really have avenues to which to answer some of the questions that they were asking of themselves, right, or they were curious about. And a lot of them just, you know, I met third year mechanical engineering students in university who had never had a real conversation with an actual mechanical engineer,
Wow.
you know, in that field, right? And I know for me and my career journey, while I was in undergrad, I was able to engage with scientists. I was able to kind of learn more, not only about, you know, the content and the actual craft itself, but around what, you know, what the day-to-day looks like. How do you, you know, are you able to really have proper work-life balance in this field, right? I know, you know, surgeon friends of mine who wish they knew what, you know, the lifestyle and the work-life balance of a surgeon is before they went into it, right? You only know, you know the appeal of it, right? And kind of where that role is held in society, but you don't understand what really goes into the day-to-day and to be it. And especially in a country like Jamaica, if you Google certain things, it's giving you US and UK based information, right? What does where does a radiologist work, or what kind of work does a chemist do? It might be very broad, but maybe in Jamaica it's really in certain industries. So I wanted to give students the opportunity to answer a lot of those questions, right? Find the answer to those questions, because I know we have career days, we have we have features in newspapers and stuff like that, but a lot of people don't ask the questions that they want to ask on career day. I know I didn't. I didn't want to sound foolish in front of my friends them. So every time the person who came asks, who have a question, I kept my hand down, even though I had questions to ask. So I wanted to create a space where you can go ask the questions, get the answers, regardless of where you work. Because one of the big things I realized, especially now that I have friends who grew up in Kingston, and I didn't go to school in Kingston. There are certain things that the Kingston school them and high schools know what I just never did know. I meet people and them did have this grant from this bank and this scholarship, and apparently that scholarship is for everybody in Jamaica. I never heard nothing about that scholarship or that grant or that opportunity while I was in Mobay. And it's even worse for say students, maybe maybe in Trelawny, maybe in St. Catherine or Clarendon or something. So I wanted to create a platform now where, regardless if you're in Kingston, Mobay, St. Thomas, wherever you are, you can get on board, meet people, engage with them. And so, because, really where you grow up and the environment you grow up kind of dictates the kind of people you meet, right? If I'm in Kingston, I'll meet different kinds of professionals coming up, in my academic career than if I'm growing up somewhere else. So to create a space now where anybody can go and meet, meet a Camir, meet a Shakira, meet so many of the cool people that we have on the platform, and just ask them, how did you get where you are? I'm a student. I'm here in my life. I'm in sixth form. I'm first year. I want to do this. You're doing it. How did you get there? What kind of things would you recommend that I not do? What kind of things you wish you did, right? Like if I can learn from your mistakes and don't do that same thing, then great. So as soon as somebody talk to me about graduate school, the first thing I say, do not convince yourself that you know which lab you're going to work in before you go to the school. You know what I mean? Don't fall in that trap I did. I already did it. I know the kind of heartache it caused me. Go into the open mind, give everybody. So you get to have those conversations and hopefully have real conversations with the mentors on the platform. So, that's a very long answer to your short question, but that's kind of why I wanted to start Minds of Jamaica, no Minds of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, long answer, but the detail in it was very, very necessary. And I see everybody in the chat, saying it's so inspiring and it's factual, and this right here, this is what is needed, because a lot of the times you don't even know some of the things that actually exist. Because especially if you grow up in Jamaica, you're just fed with the same thing. Your mother said, well, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Oh, we don't know about nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so many cool people, they're doing digital marketing, they're YouTubers now, they're podcasters, they're doing all these interesting things that, maybe didn't exist when our parents were coming up. And I think a lot of times too, it's kind of fear, a lot of our schools, we have, say, a guidance counselor or a career counselor who is in charge of kind of helping students, figure out their careers and so on. And this is not to say that they're not, doing a good job, but it is almost,
right.
it's unfair to ask one person to
resources.
advise the students who want to be singers, who want to be scientists, who want to be, marketers, engineers, mechanics. Like, you're asking this one career counselor to guide all these students. It's an impossible job to do, to optimize each person, right? So we want to create a space now that we can hopefully even be a tool that career counselors use and engage with us to help guide students to the individual who can best speak to that field, right? And multiple individuals in the same field, because even if you take 3 other computational biologists, we're all going to have different stories, different versions of our journeys and so on. And none of my journey is not going to look exactly like somebody else's or the next student who's coming up, right? So the more opportunities you give yourself, this is kind of how I view it. If I can speak and engage as many people as possible, each conversation might not be that one conversation that unlocks everything and so on, but I'm giving myself the best chance, right, to find that one conversation. And maybe you never find that one conversation that unlocks everything, but cumulatively, over time, each person kind of give you a small piece of the puzzle. Camir just bust you on the whole skipping the masters thing, and that is all you take from Camir. And you go to somebody else, and you learn another trick, and you go.
I love it so much. And Kev says, I love this initiative. Sign me up. Check the link in the bio, Kev. Check the link in the bio.
Yeah.
Minds of here in Jamaica and Trinidad. It's open to all students, right? So just sign up and figure out who is it that you want to link with, who you want to talk with, what questions you want to ask.
Message us. Just message us on Instagram if you want to be a mind, which is what we call the mentors, or you want to be a mentee or so on. Message us on Instagram and we'll point in the right direction, help you get started, and help you be a part of it, for sure. Like, we're always looking to increase the community.
Yes, as Kayla said, I think the problem is students being steered towards the traditional jobs. So true. Than actually finding out what they want to do by being all-rounded. They're not introduced to all options, just a select few, and that's so true. That's so true.
No, that's real. And for us, we have mentors, we have minds who are in, say, traditional, more traditional roles, but we're also actively seeking to add minds who are in these kind of non-traditional jobs, or a lot of people assume we are kind of science only platform and stuff, but we have a lot of people in the arts as well. So because I think there are multiple ways to achieve success, and success looks different for everybody. So I definitely think that's a good point.
And just keep coming back, joining Mentorship Mondays, and you get to meet different faces that have different career paths, so you can learn about all different ways, as Camir says, to success, because success is different. It looks different to everyone. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to say thanks so much for staying on with us. You really have been on with us for quite some time. I think we've been chatting for a while in the camera, but when the conversation's sweet, when the conversation's sweet, you don't even realize time is going. And I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Camir Ricketts. I like the doctor on it, so I'm going to keep on saying it. Thank you so much, Dr. Camir Ricketts, for coming out and sharing with us great nuggets. I mean, I got takeaways, and I'm sure everybody in the IG Live right now got great takeaways. And so we are very appreciative that you really took the time out of your day to come and share with us. And that,
No, this was fun.
It was fun, wasn't it?
This was a lot of fun. Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. It's a long time I don't show my face on the Minds of Jamaica IGs. So very excited. Looking forward to our future mentorship Mondays. Hopefully meeting some of you guys. Hopefully, I'll meet some of you guys as mentees on the platform soon enough. Again, I just want to remind everybody, our website, you can go to ja.themindsof.com, THEMINDSOF.com, ja.themindsof.com. And if you're trying to figure out how to become a mentee, how to become a mind, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
I love that. And just to note that we're back here on February 13th with another exciting guest. So stay tuned, and of course there will be more giveaways. So stay tuned. Mentorship Mondays. The next one is February 13th, right here on the Minds of Jamaica IG Live. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. We truly appreciate you staying out till the end, and we'll see you on February 13th. All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, guys.